You're listening to Pitch Perfect, the podcast, not the movie. And I'm your host, Nate, and of course we are deep into Season 2 of Pitch Perfect. That's right, the spectacular Snyder Man, a.k.a. the Sny Who Shagged Me, a.k.a. Live Free or Sny Hard, our exploration of the films of Zack Snyder, and it's only appropriate that I'm joined by my co-host, who you will know from his work as the lead hot dog technician on Zack Snyder's The Justice League. Say hi to the people, Josh.
I knew this day would come. You know, you think that you have time, right? You think that there will be a chance, an opportunity to really gauge in when the shit's gonna hit the fan, and you're never ready for it, and then it happens. And then one day you sit down with your friend and watch the Snyderverse, and all of a sudden they become obsessed with the Snyderverse, and we have to go back to rehab, but for a different reason.
I got Snyder fever, and I just can't help it. This is not going to be timely for the people listening to this podcast because we record these like weeks before they go up. But yeah, no, the Snyder Cut just came out. We watched it.
Yes, I think it was not an improvement and not worth investing 4 hours, even though I worked on it as the hot dog technician, because that scene was, chef's kiss, perfect. But the rest of the movie, not worth it. But Nate, however, has been jokerized by that movie, in that he is now sitting in the desert on a car recording this podcast wearing a SWAT uniform, waiting for someone to tell him that they'll fucking kill him.
That's all I want. Look, I'm not going to say whether or not I think it was good or bad or a movie, but I will say that I do really appreciate that all of your hard work, meticulously arranging those beautiful, glistening glizzies, has finally come to light for all the world to enjoy.
I just want everybody to know there was still a scene cut out from the Snyderverse that didn't make it there, even though Zack said he would put it in, and I'm really upset. When they're all getting ready for the giant battle, and they're getting all their act together, there was a scene of just the Flash snarfing hot dogs, carbing up, getting ready for his run through time, just going to town on some wiener dogs. And they cut that out. And I don't know why. I mean, I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was thematic. I thought it made sense for his character, a runner, to carb up on dogs. Mm-hmm. But no.
If there's one thing I know about athletes, is that they love eating hot dogs. And that's why we need to start hashtag release the hot dog cut. And we get that trending on social media.
Yeah, also, we're just going to talk about what we're actually doing with Season 2, and we're not doing a Snyderverse season, and we will never do a Snyderverse season.
But did you know? But I had all those great names. I got more in the tank if you want to hear them.
No.
Okay.
No, we're banning that. That is banned. That is going to go in the trash can along with our Mark Wahlberg season.
No. Balls to the Wallsberg?
Nope. No balls to the Wallsberg. That has been denied by corporate.
The Walls of Jericho? Okay, well, whatever. No, we're not doing something stupid like an episode about Zack Snyder's The Justice League. We're doing an episode about Son-in-Law starring Pauly Shore.
Pauly Shore? Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose smile and widened eyes and wheeze of cool command tell that its sculptor well these passions read, which yet survive. Stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal, these words appear. His name is Pauly Shore, King of Kings. Look on his works, ye mighty, and despair. And so we shall. Welcome to On Distant Shores, the actual season that we're doing for this podcast, Season 2, Pitch Perfect, where my co-host and I talk about the career of actor-comedian Pauly Shore and how it maybe could have gone a bit better.
Yes, we're going to watch a selection of his films, not everything he's ever been in. And at the end, we're going to pitch the perfect Pauly Shore vehicle. It'll probably be a movie, just to be clear.
I mean, I feel like that's the whole point of this podcast, is that it's got to be a movie.
Yeah, I just feel like when I said vehicle, people were like, well, maybe they're going to come up with some kind of cool ATV for Pauly Shore to drive around in. And that's not the case. We're going to pitch a movie for him to star in.
Yeah, no, I let my mechanics degree expire.
Yeah, so this is the second episode of this season. We started off with Encino Man, which is a movie that I had a lot of affection for going into. Experienced a lot of nostalgia around that movie. And now we're talking about a movie called Son-in-Law, which I don't believe either of us had seen before this.
You weren't sure when we first talked about this movie.
I was sure once we had watched like 10 minutes of it that I had never seen this movie before. But I thought maybe I could have seen it in the past, in a half-remembered dream. But that's not the case.
No, it is not the case. This movie, I think the nicest thing I could say about this movie is that it exists.
Should I summarize it, or should we get right into rating?
No, so let's. I'd love to hear how you summarize this movie. Please take us away on a magical journey of what this movie is.
Okay, so small-town valedictorian Rebecca Becca Warner moves from South Carolina to L.A. for college and meets a sentient mimetic contagion named Crawl. He's played by Pauly Shore. Is he the origin point for the infection, or just the most advanced case we see in the film? We don't know. What we do know is that he befriends/infects Rebecca, and this causes her to start dressing differently and get a tattoo. A small tattoo of a butterfly on her ankle, specifically. This is incredibly scandalous. Becca takes a lonely Crawl home with her for Thanksgiving to infect her family, which she does over the course of the film. This central conflict arises when Becca's longtime boyfriend and local monster, Travis, tries to propose to her. She panics and asks Crawl to intervene, and he panics and says that Becca's already engaged to him. And then, for no clear reason, Becca decides that they must go live this lie until they leave for L.A. again. Becca's father really hates Crawl because he's Pauly Shore, and so he enlists his employee Theo to do, like, farm tortures on Crawl to scare him away, but Crawl is undeterred, and this draws Theo's ire. And Crawl then begins to slowly win over and infect the family one by one. He encourages Becca's little creep of a brother in his dreams of making video games. He tells her mom that she gives him a boner. He brings her grandfather back to life with an almost kiss, and teaches her dad about empathy. Travis and Theo then decide to get their revenge on Crawl by throwing him a bachelor party as a cover for drugging him and a girl named Tracy and making it look like they both slept together. This enrages Becca even though they are not actually engaged, but she still calls off their fake engagement because of this. Then, almost immediately after this problem is introduced, Crawl and Tracy expose Travis and Theo as being actual criminals and monsters. And they are presumably run out of town. Becca and Crawl reconcile, and then the movie very abruptly ends with them, like, leaving to go back to L.A.
Not even, they don't even get a chance to leave. They just take a photo, and that ends the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Son-in-Law. Now, Nate made it sound like it's The Thing, and he's not wrong in spirit. He is wrong in everything else.
This is always the case with me.
Now, when we say that people get infected in this movie, what we mean is they just get turned into taking in Pauly Shore's mannerisms super quickly.
Yeah, they just start talking like Pauly Shore. The thing is, the people who start talking like Pauly Shore almost talk more like Pauly Shore than Pauly Shore does in this movie.
Yeah, Becca says buddy more than, like, I think Pauly Shore did in this entire movie.
Yes. So what did you think about this one? You had started off by saying something that sounded like you might have been mean about it before I cut you off to summarize it.
Now, this movie exists. That's pretty much as far as I can go with this movie. It's... So you start watching a movie called Son-in-Law, right? And then it's about this girl who goes to college for, like, the first third of the movie. And you're like, why is this movie called Son-in-Law?
Yeah. So, like, the poster there's, like, two posters that I've seen for this movie. One is, like, a riff on American Gothic with Pauly Shore and Becca. She's played by Carla Gugino. One of two Saved by the Bell alumni that are in this movie, as far as I know. And they're, like, doing the American Gothic thing, and they're, like, standing in front of a farm, and he has, like, a pitchfork or something. And then the second one is, like, identifying a bunch of farm animals, and it identifies him as the weasel. Like, Pauly Shore is on there with, like, a chicken and a pig. So it's like, you really think this movie is about him marrying someone and moving to a farm, and that's not really what the movie's about at all.
No. So it's really like an odd duck, just in general. And the plot itself is bland. I mean, you think about... We talked about Encino Man, it didn't have Brendan Fraser or Pauly Shore. Now, this movie didn't have Pauly Shore. I don't know what this movie would be. You know, this movie was, like, made as you said earlier, kind of like a vehicle for Pauly Shore, right? But the plot is so, like, really just nothing. There's really nothing there. And we'll talk about it later, but, like, the decisions they make to keep the plot going aren't logical at all. And, like, it's fun because Pauly Shore's there, right? Like, he's doing his insane, wacky nonsense, and you're having a good time with him. But that's really it. It doesn't really feel like a movie. It immediately just feels like a nice collection of funny moments. And it just doesn't, like, feel cohesive. And I swear I'm gonna forget this movie, like, 2 days from now. Completely.
Oh, I wouldn't argue that this movie is memorable. I think it's just a perfectly serviceable, light comedy. Yeah, it doesn't really have much of a plot or any sort of, like, momentum. The main, like, the movie is entirely hinges on Rebecca's decision to just not tell her parents that her engagement is fake, even though there really doesn't seem to be any reason why she can't tell them. But, like, it's fun enough. Funny things happen. Pauly Shore is likable. Like, I wasn't really bored at any point watching this, but I wouldn't necessarily call it, like, essential.
Yeah, so I would rate it just general 5 out of 10, 2.5 stars out of 5. I originally thought that it might have been a little bit, like, on par with Encino Man, but then I, like, remembered, like, the only reason I'm thinking about that is because Pauly Shore is enjoyable. Encino Man, at least, despite having a despicable monster in it as well, that we won't talk about anymore because we've talked about him to death. Despite that, it at least has, like, an interesting premise, and Brendan Fraser's there whacking it up in addition to Pauly Shore, and I think it's way more memorable. Where this movie just can easily fall under the radar of, like, anybody.
Yeah, I think, like, there's, this movie's, like, maybe more cohesive than Encino Man. It also understands which character should be the villain, which is a problem that Encino Man has. But it is way less, like you said, way less memorable. I think Encino Man is also just, like, more charming in general. It's got more going on. So yeah, I agree. I would also give this a 5. Put it 1 point below my score for Encino Man. So yeah, I mean, it's, like, fine though. Like, if you were, like, flipping through the TV channels and this was, like, on, like, you would not necessarily have a bad time, like, watching this.
No, it is. Again, it follows the pattern of Encino Man, where it's, like, a stoner movie that isn't a stoner movie.
Yes.
It, like, fits into, like, oh, you could get high and watch this and have a good time, but also completely forget about it.
Yeah, there's, like, couple funny jokes. There's, a couple shots of people in bikinis. Like, it's like, yeah, it's got whatever you need from a early 90s kind of a nothing comedy.
Nothing comedy is pretty apt description, I'd say. Okay, so we've rated this movie. Do you want to get into high point and low points?
Sure, I'm down to do that. Let's see. Do you have a high point? We'll start with high points, I think.
Okay, so
I'll be real. There's not a lot of either of these. This movie is very much just okay.
Yeah, it's literally what I was just about to say. There's, like, at the end of this movie, I was, like, struggling to remember, like, what was the best thing that happened in this movie, and they're all just, like, the same. So my high point, I guess, a scene that I just enjoyed in general, would be when they're originally sitting down to have dinner, and Carl decides that he's just gonna head out with the family because he's caused enough damage, and, decides that he shouldn't be here anymore, and gets up to leave, then consistently, like, takes 2 steps, looks back to see if they're gonna stop him from leaving, takes 2 more steps, looks back to see if they're going to stop him from leaving, and it goes on for an elongated period of time. And eventually, the dad gives in and it's like, oh no, I insist you stay, blah, blah, blah. But it definitely goes on for, like, 4 or 5 minutes where, like, no one is, like, doing anything. And he clearly, like, can't leave, like contractually is not able to leave.
Yeah, it's just like, where is he going to go?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I like that.
Mine is, like, a similar thing where it's just kind of Pauly Shore doing a sort of funny thing where it's, like, right after he does, like, his cover story of being like, oh, me and Becca are engaged, he gets punched by Travis, and he just, after one punch, he just collapses to the ground and starts, like, doing, like, a like, really exaggerated, like, fake obnoxious crying. And I think that's really funny. I like fake obnoxious crying. It's a bit that I enjoy doing often. And Pauly Shore does some good fake bad crying.
Yeah, that actually kind of gets paid off later in the opposite direction, and we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other high points?
See, here's the thing. I'm looking at my notes, and like almost everything I took notes on is completely neutral. Like, it's not really a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the thing I noted.
I know you enjoyed the montage.
Yeah, they do. Listeners of this show are going to know that I love a good montage. And there's a pretty good montage of him. There's sort of like dual montages, right? There's him being bad at farming. And then there's him applying his Pauly Shore style and getting good at farming. He incorporates rollerblading. He rides a pig. That's fun. Pauly Shore interacts with a pig. Other long-time listeners of this podcast will know I'm a fan of pigs as well. And so there's some good pig action in this movie, I guess. So that's cool. The soundtrack of this movie is pretty good, too.
I mean, it's okay. It's like generic 90s movie soundtrack.
I think there's some specific little gems in here.
I can't name one song that I heard in that movie.
They got Feed the Tree by Belly. That's a song that I like a lot. Also, Who's in My Room Last Night by the Butthole Surfers is a Green Jelly song on the soundtrack. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
If you like 90s alt-rock, it's a pretty solid soundtrack.
Alright, so I only had one, so I'm going to take that as my highest high point. And what are you picking for yours?
My highest high point, I think I'm going to zero in on something from the montage, and it'll move very reminiscent of what happens with Ernest Goes to School. I'm going to say that my high point is him riding a pig.
Okay, cool. Now, if we put this to battle, are you going to have the same regret that you had last time?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay, here we go. Why don't you introduce our guest for this episode, Nate?
We have with us the one and only, presenting, drumroll please, William Shatner.
Oh, yes. Welcome, William Shatner. Glad to have you on board the USS Season 2 on Distant Shores.
Yes. I'm Boston legally obligated to tell you that I think you're a wonderful guest.
Well, now that we got that out of the way, let's, what do you think, William Shatner? What is the number one highest point of Son-in-Law?
He agrees with me.
Okay.
He believes that it is the part where Pauly Shore rides a pig. He also wanted me to say, and I didn't want to do this, but he insisted I tell you that he has had enough of you.
I mean, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. But it's fine. It's fine. We're trying to get over our rivalry just to work together as, professionals. Okay, William Shatner? Let's move on.
He can't hear you. He's climbing a mountain.
But why is he climbing a mountain?
Hug the mountain.
Okay.
Right.
While he's climbing that mountain, we have to decide whether or not Pauly Shore riding a pig is better than our current season high point, Wheezing the Joes.
It's not better than Wheezing the Joes. That is. I'm pretty sure at some point that we were talking about something on this podcast, and you said it was just the high point of comedy, and didn't specify that you meant like in whatever movie we were talking about. And that's how I feel about Wheezing the Juice. That's the high point of comedy. That's the funniest thing anyone's ever come up with. As far as, 8 to 13-year-old Nate is concerned.
This is going to be worse than our previous season high point. We're just going to carry Wheezing the Juice to, the final episode.
Well, at least in the previous season, we got our final high point from the second episode.
Third?
Third? Yes, third. You know what? I don't think I should be blamed for forgetting about Saves Christmas.
No one should be blamed for forgetting about Saves Christmas.
But no, him riding a pig is not funnier than Wheezing the Juice.
Excuse me?
Is.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So let's do low points. I think you and I probably have the same low point.
I kind of really only have so there's a big low point, and then there's one. I think the beginning. They're this movie is kind of a romantic comedy, but not really. There's an implication at the end that they might get together, but they don't actually get together. And they don't interact, honestly, for a lot of the movie.
Wait, you're talking about Carl and Becca?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But they have, like, their meet cute, and it's, like, got bad vibes. It's the worst meet cute I've, like, ever seen. He's weirdly threatening, even though he's Pauly Shore is supposed to be, like, a lovable, non-threatening character. He's like unfolding a multi-tool as he walks shirtless into her dorm room and shuts the door behind him.
He's holding a video camera.
Oh, he's also holding a video camera, yes.
And he calls her fresh meat!
He does. It's bad. Like, he's not really like well, he's kind of gross, but he's not like a scumbag for the rest of the movie. But his introduction has seriously off vibes.
Yeah, he tells her that she has charisma.
He does say that.
As he's unfolding a multi-tool in her room.
Yeah, just to be clear, he's doing that because he's going to unlock her trunk that they lost the key for. But still, very threatening energy there.
For sure, I agree with that being a low point, but I have to do the low point that is just very prominent in this movie. For the ending of this movie, Theo, a giant, I want to say like late 30s, early 40s man with a ponytail.
Yeah. I called him Dollar Store John Goodman while we were watching the movie.
Decides it's a good idea to team up with the evil Travis, who is now 100% evil, even though he's just slightly... he wasn't even that bad earlier on, but then he just like does 100% 180 into chaotic evil like immediately. They decide it's a great idea to drug a presumably early 20-something guy, Pauly Shore, and very early 20-something girl, Tracy.
I think we know that she's like 18 because she's a classmate of Becca's, and Becca's still a freshman in college.
Yeah, okay, so even worse, a teenage girl. They decide it's a good idea to drug them, put them in a barn missing everything but their underwear, and gaslight them into thinking they hooked up together. And then Travis, the worst person,
oh god,
slut shames Tracy, a girl which we presume from their conversations that he was cheating on Becca with at some point. It's hard to tell. It's not really concrete. But it feels like they were.
I think that's definitely what we're supposed to pick up.
And they just slut shames her into thinking that she had relations with Krull. And it's awful. It's so bad. I mean, Travis doing it is like one thing, and like that's a level of awful. But then we find out Theo did it too, and he like carried them to the barn and drove her car there and helped get them drugged. And it's just like, oh god, no.
It's really bad. It's unnecessarily dark and fucked up turn for such a light movie. It doesn't go... I mean, okay, here's the thing. We're describing it. It sounds very dark, and it is. It doesn't go as dark as you might think it would. It's still really bad, and, like, they could have come up with a different climax for this movie. This didn't need to be the last act of Son-in-Law. And I think they knew that because the problem is resolved so fast, and, like, Travis and Theo are run out of the house, and once they're off screen, they are just gone, and we don't see them again.
Yeah, Tracy, like, when she's driving away after being slut-shamed, she finds a bottle of pills in her car and realizes that her car settings were set back too low, and then figures it out, picks up Krull, who's now trying to get a ride back to LA on the streets, and confronts the family about it.
Yeah. This is definitely the worst part of the movie, I agree. What was our low point from Encino Man?
Dave.
Is this worse than Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, it's worse. It's for sure worse.
I don't think we need to pull William Shatner off the mountain for this, because
he can stay on that mountain.
The thing is, he loves that mountain. But also, Dave didn't do, like, as much as Dave did shitty things, right? Yeah. Dave never did anything this awful and illegal.
Yeah. He was just kind of a crummy guy. He wasn't I mean, we joked about him being a monster, but he's not, like, he's nowhere near this bad.
He's not this kind of monster.
No. How do we put this down on our list? What do we say this is? Just plot-relevant drugging?
Plot-relevant gaslighting, drugging, and slut-shaming.
Sure. I mean, this feels like one that's going to stay on there. Like, I don't know if we're going to see anything worse than this.
I hope we won't.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, that's pretty bad. Do you want to get clean in the bubble bath?
Yeah, I think after talking about that dirty stuff, we really do need to get clean in the bubble bath. So let's dive in, take a deep breath, get completely covered in water,
Mm.
and talk about the things in this movie that baffled us. So, Nate, how has this movie harmed you, and what has it done to baffle you?
I would say it's harmed me, or maybe it has. But that really is up to the listener to decide. Because this is a big one. I think. This is gonna. We're really gonna have to dissect this. This movie has a cameo in it, an important cameo.
Oh, okay.
Two important cameos. One, I'll start off with the less important one, which is that the prophecy has been fulfilled.
It has?
Because Flea is actually in this movie.
Oh yeah, Flea's in this movie for like a second.
It's actually Flea. It's not just a guy who looks like Flea. It's a for real Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's in the movie very briefly as the tattoo artist that gives back.
You really wanted Flea to be in a movie that we were talking about with Ernest Saves Christmas again, and here we are with actual Flea.
So that plot point for this podcast has been resolved. Chekhov's Flea has been fired. And Flea's been fired, presumably, because he's not in the rest of this movie. That's how it works, right? If you're not in every scene of the movie, that means you got fired?
Yeah, totally. That's how extras work. Totally. Flea, can you describe what Flea was doing in this movie?
Getting berated by Pauly Shore?
Yeah, he's like the tattoo artist, and he's like intimidating, and Pauly Shore's like, hey, you're a freak. Stop freaking out. He's like, yeah, you're right.
He tells him that the tattoo ink sinked into his brain and made him go crazy.
Alright. Why don't we save that other cameo for something else? I have an idea in mind for that one.
Okay.
Do you mind if I start?
Yeah, sure.
So, the beginning of this movie, Pauly Shore and Becca kind of, like, they form this friendship super fast. And then he goes out to buy her new clothes. And they go on, like, this, like, shopping spree, and she gets, like, new hair and new clothes, and that part of it is getting a tattoo. But when she gets her new clothes, she immediately walks outside and throws her clothes in the trash.
Yeah, she throws her old clothes in the trash outside. Like, I get it. Like, it's symbolic. You're starting a new chapter in your life. But, you might need those.
Yeah, but the next thing that happens, which is something I wanted to point out, was that Pauly Shore calls her a fresh little kitty in some weasel wear.
Mm-hmm. He does say that, yes.
You know, very threatening aura of that.
Yeah, it was like at that point, okay, we were watching the movie, and we were like, we thought that they just immediately started dating, and I was like, wow, this movie is like one soundtrack change away from being Vertigo. Then very quickly after the movie makes it clear that they're actually just friends, which I guess makes it less like Vertigo. But there was definitely like a point in this movie where it was like Pauly Shore was like molding this woman in his image. But then he does it to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. Do you want to talk about the Weasel Zone?
Yeah.
Which, a name that I am definitely bookmarking for our final pitch. But just in general, I think it belongs in the bubble bath to talk about the Weasel Zone.
Crawl, Pauly Shore's avatar in this movie, his disguise he wears to fool us into thinking he is a fictional character. He seems to emanate some sort of aura around him that just makes everyone, the more time they spend around him, the more they just become like Pauly Shore. They say the things that he says. They just suddenly get on board with the things that he does, even though it doesn't make any sense. There's a part where they're square dancing, and he takes the mic and starts saying a bunch of Pauly Shore-isms into the microphone.
He starts rapping.
Yeah, but like in the square, like, take your partner, do-si-do, and he's talking about, like, buffing the wood and...
Buff your wood and eat your nugs.
Yeah, basically that. And for some reason, just immediately, like, after hearing a little bit of this, all of these country people in the square dancing parlor, I don't know where you do square dancing at. Barn? They are just immediately on board, and when the real square dancing rapper, I don't know, MC of the square dancing, tries to take the mic back, they all boo him. Because they love the Pauly Shore square dancing raps.
I think the biggest example of this is just how quickly someone can be infected by the Weasel Zone. Where there's one scene in particular that definitely belongs to the bubble bath. So, another Pauly Shore catchphrase I don't think we quite covered is him mingling.
Yeah, he says, Yeah, that just means, like, whatever. It's just anytime you're doing anything with other people, you're mingling, I guess.
Yeah, and whenever, like, he's being pulled away from that, he's like, no, I'm mingling. So, they're in the mall trying on outfits and stuff after they get to family because he wants to combine his style with the country style because he feels out of place. And he runs in with this little girl that he's saying hi to, and her mom pulls her away because of course she does. And she's like, but mommy, I'm mingling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, she talked to Pauly Shore for 2 seconds.
Yeah, and now she's a carrier for the virus.
It's insane.
My favorite version of this, though, is at the very end of the movie, once Travis has been revealed. I mean, this is maybe a little out of place because I am going to read a quote, but it belongs here. I must say it.
That's fine.
When Travis has been exposed as a monster, Rebecca's grandfather, who's been one of the biggest opposers to Crawl throughout the movie, says, with really no foreshadowing, Travis, it really tweaks my melon to see a bruff bro like Crawl here get wheezed on by a greasy scumbag like you. So you just chill.
Yeah, the only, like, interaction that would lead up to that is Pauly Shore almost giving CPR to him after he had a heart attack during, like, when they were fishing. And it does not lead to him knowing all Pauly Shore's lingo and saying that word for word.
The grandfather is involved in I probably should have said this during High Points, but one of the funnier parts of the movie is when Pauly Shore first meets the grandfather and he says, it's Bartles or James, and then asks him, which one are you?
Yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, do you have another thing that baffled you to add to our delicious bubble bath?
No, I just really want to talk about the cameo, but we can do that later.
Okay, well, I have a few. Let's talk about Crawl sitting in his room reading Hungry Man to himself.
When Becca comes to him and realizes that he's going to be alone on Thanksgiving and she wants to take him home with her, he is, like, giving a soliloquy to no one about, like, Hungry Man dinner, like, microwave dinners, when she finds him. Yeah, he's a strange being, Crawl is.
Yes, he is, because later on in the movie, as he consistently videotapes things, for no reason, it doesn't really build up to him, making, like, a video montage or anything. He just videotapes everything. When he first gets to the family's house, he's like, oh, cool, middle of America, hold this camera, film this. And he literally goes on the ground and starts surfing.
The weird thing is he doesn't actually surf at any point in the movie.
No.
I guess he just has a surfery enough vibe that they decided he should do that.
Yeah, that was baffling. I just didn't understand what my eyes were telling my brain was going on.
I did remember that I had another thing to put in the bath.
Okay, and then after that I got 2 more.
This might be one of yours. There's a part where I forget what she's doing. She's doing something else. And it's at the school. And Pauly Shore, or Crawl, jumps, like, out of a door, and he's wearing a leopard print onesie and a pilgrim hat.
Mm-hmm.
And he just starts chanting Steven Tyler PJs and dancing in place.
Yeah. The pilgrim hat's huge! Yeah, that happened, and that was very, very confusing. Cool. Alright, I got 2 more real quick ones, and then we get out of this before we get all sudsy. Firstly, when Pauly Shore is leaving, apparently to, like, just head out, and he already has made friends with Becca's little creepazoid brother, Zach,
who's played by the kid from The Sandlot, the ginger kid with the freckles from The Sandlot.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's a shame you gotta go. It'd be cool to have you around longer. And then Pauly Shore's like, can I squeeze your cheeks? He's like, yeah, I guess. And then Pauly Shore does it, and he's like, yeah. And he just talk about threatening aura.
Yeah. When we were watching it, we were like, it's almost weirder that he's not an alien. And as far as I know, he's never played an alien.
Yeah, like, he should have, like, there should have been, like, an Earth Girls Are Easy movie for Pauly Shore to do.
Yeah.
Where he just is...
Earth Girls Are Wheezy.
Earth Girls Are Wheezy. Jotting that one down for the final pitch. But yeah, no, it's like, it's weird that, like, he never had, like, an alien thing going on, because it could totally work for Pauly Shore just as a person. Finally, I want to call back to one of your high points, where Pauly Shore gets... where Crawl gets... I keep calling him, like, Pauly Shore, but I should call him by his character name, but it doesn't matter.
Crawley Shore.
Where Pauly Shore gets punched by Travis and immediately falls down and says, owie! But then later on in the movie, as, like, Travis is revealed to be the worst person in the world and tries to fight Pauly Shore, before he gets kicked out of the house, and then Pauly Shore just like friggin' like beats him up, like he punches him twice in the face and once in the nugs, and then he's like, I majored in being a karate expert for 2 years. And it's like, cool, where was that? That doesn't add up.
No, but that is sort of like a kind of lackadaisical running gag in the movie where couple times he brings up things he majored in, but they don't do it that much. They do it so infrequently that you almost forget that it's a running gag in between instances of it happening. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's fun to see Pauly Shore beat up a guy, kinda, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it was enjoyable, but, you know, it didn't make too much sense in general. Okay, no. Let's get out of the bath. Let's dry ourselves off. Before we get in any further sections, do you want to talk about, just in general, the theory that Crawl, a character who was named Crawl freshman year because that's how he always got home, according to him, and has been in college for 6 years and majored in many different things, is just a proto Van Wilder?
Yeah. Van Wilder, I think, exists because someone watched this movie and was disappointed that he leaves the college by the end of the first act.
Yeah. They're like, what if we did Son-in-Law, but in college for the whole movie?
Yeah, and then what if there was a rise of Taj? What if, you know Taj? You remember Taj? Yeah. What if he rised? Yeah. He's 100% a proto Van Wilder. But I mean, like, that kind of character has been around. I mean, that's like, you know, lots of college movies have, like, the party guy who's hanging around. But I want to talk about a different theory.
Okay. What's your theory?
So, like, everybody that Crawl interacts with slowly becomes more and more like Pauly Shore.
Yeah, that's the Weasel Zone.
So, the question is, was he born as the Weasel?
Or did someone weaselize him?
Or was he wheezed into this current state? And how does Stoney from Encino Man fit into all of this?
I'm so glad you asked that, because let's do the timeline.
Okay.
Here's the thing, Nate. You were wrong. There's a timeline. All these movies are going to connect, and here's why. Because we have a cameo from the one, the only, Encino Man. In this movie, Brendan Fraser shows up for a scene.
Yes. Link is here in this movie, very briefly.
It's 100% Link.
Yeah, he's got the same outfit, he looks the same, he has the same mannerisms. Crawl runs into him at a party, or maybe Becca does, I actually can't remember.
It's like a Halloween-ish party, but it might not actually be Halloween. And Crawl's wearing a Chiquita Banana Lady costume, which he looks great.
No, he looks impeccable.
That's so good.
Yeah, and Link sees him and grunts at him like a caveman, and has a frog with him that he like heats with a...
No, he picks it off the banana costume.
Oh, okay, so he just had a fake frog on him already.
Yeah, Link picks it up off the Chiquita banana costume, heats it up, takes a bite of it, and walks away. And Crawl for a moment is like, huh, did I know that guy? Mm-hmm. And then he's like, nah. And then walks away. So clearly, I think...
they have to exist in the same universe.
There are multiple Pauly Shores in the same universe. And somewhere out there is Stoney in the same world as Crawl.
Now, which one is Patient Zero?
That's the question.
Because I think it's not just that there are multiple Pauly Shores. This isn't just that that he has like a doppelganger or there's like a changeling situation. I think it is that the Weasel is some kind of psychic virus that infects you and turns you into the Weasel and spreads from Weasel to Weasel across the population. Inevitably, there will be some kind of Weaspocalypse where everyone on Earth or the bulk of the population has become the Weasel.
Yes, if listeners are familiar with us going insane, this time it only took us 2 episodes.
We were already we were already weakened from the previous season. So I don't think we have enough information here, but I think we will be able to parse out a timeline of the infection.
Probably, but I think what we have to just narrow down for now is that Son-in-Law definitely comes directly after Encino Man.
It must, yes.
So the timeline for right now is Encino Man followed by Son-in-Law. Just like it is in real life.
Yeah. So right now they're just happening in chronological order, but who knows? We'll go to all sorts of wild places over the course of this season.
Yeah, so cool. Now I'm doing a timeline.
Good job. I'm proud of you.
Okay, cool. Do you want to get essentials before we just completely lose every listener ever?
Yeah. Let's get into essentials.
Okay. So the first essential we came up with was sense of style, and that exists in this movie. Even like when he's dressed up in ridiculous costumes, he looks great. He's really knows how to wear clothes. He also knows how not to wear clothes, because in this movie we also see Pauly Shore's butt.
We do see Pauly Shore's butt. Yeah, I would definitely agree that that's still a huge element here. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Okay. Next essential was Jack Sparrow-esque. Stoned, but sage and smart.
Yeah, that's pretty much true here. He's probably dumber here than he is in Encino Man, which is weird to say, but I mean, otherwise that's pretty much still his whole deal.
Can we talk about his yelling?
Oh, he cannot lower the volume of his voice in this movie. He's constantly yelling.
About like everything. Like he walks into a room and he's like, "Ow!"
Yeah, he's ramped up in this. Crawl is more cartoony than Stoney is.
Yeah. Do you think the chunky bong rip hypothesis still occurs in this movie?
Yes. Yes. I still think we're operating under the chunky bong rip theorem here.
Cool. I'm glad the CBRH is still going strong. Okay. Yeah, he has these solutions to things, and he does, like, he has a sense of logic, and he also helps Becca's brother hack into a computer game at one point. So he has a lot of intelligence, but he definitely is like he has a Jack Sparrow of nature of like, oh, he's a weirdo.
Yeah, you underestimate him. He's got emotional intelligence too, though, because the way that he helps her dad is by pointing out that like his contentious relationship with his father is mirrored in his relationship with Becca's little brother.
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly insightful.
Definitely, like, nails that in. Next one is that he's a mooch and a freeloader, and that's 100%.
I disagree. I think that's not the case in this movie.
Oh?
He's working really hard in this one. He wants to be a farmer, and he says he's going to pay back Becca's dad for the damages from the hijinks that ensued from his attempts at farming.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't wheeze really at all in this one.
This is true. He does try to put his weight in. And even though he costs them a lot of money, I think at one point at the beginning of the movie, they're like, "You already cost me $1,000." He's like, "I'll pay you back." So we don't see him pay them back, but he does attempt to do it. So I guess he can't be a mooch or a freeloader.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to... do we want to take this off this list, or is this one of the things we're going to put under a review? We'll reassess after the next movie.
I think we need to reassess this. Let's keep it there for now. But if it's not in the next movie and we feel like it shouldn't be a thing, then let's get rid of it. Because, like, it leads to cool stuff, you know?
I mean, it leads to wheezing the juice, which is our favorite moment.
Right. That's what I was, like, building towards. But, you know, at the same time, it wasn't missed in this movie. And, like, him saying he's going to pay him back does help us like his character more.
Yeah.
So, let's put that on the back burner. Next one is little regard for authority.
I think this is still true. I mean, he's not, like, super rebellious. There really isn't a huge... besides the father, there really isn't, like, a huge authority figure for him to rebel against. We don't really see any of the school's, you know, internal structure. But he does facilitate wild parties being thrown and whatnot. So I would say that that's still true here.
For sure. He is self-aware.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. He's a chill dude.
Absolutely. Stone cold chiller.
Low status. 100%.
Everybody hates him initially, at least.
Yeah, also, he himself is, like, not, like, trying to push himself forward. Like, he's mastering all this different stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he wants to do. He's stuck at college forever. And, I mean, people seem to like him at college, but also, like, it doesn't seem like he's the most popular.
Yeah. It's a testament to the fact that this movie doesn't have a great structure, that there's no kind of, like, arc and payoff for him, like, actually figuring out what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's just unresolved by the end, still.
For sure. Okay, the next one is kind soul.
Yeah,
true.
Sure. He's very kind in this movie. Goes out of his way to help people.
He really does. See, upbeat? Yes.
Yeah.
Really down with everything. and then easily gels with strangers / easily charming.
For sure.
So much of this movie.
Yeah, even more in this movie than in Encino Man, I think. It might just be because he has more screen time in this.
But also because he infects everybody else with his personality.
Yeah, do you maybe want to change this to infectious personality?
Yes,
or infectious charm?
Both.
Okay, cool.
Do you want to add anything?
Yes, I have at least one that I want to add, which I think he should be an outsider.
I mean, does that fit in with low status?
Generally, yes, but I think they can be mutually exclusive. I would like to add outsider as its own thing now, and then we'll see how it goes from there if we want to combine it with other things. I mean, it might not even be a factor later, but like this movie hinges on him being an outsider, and I think his over-the-top personality works better when it's being contrasted against the world around him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good to me. So let's add that to the list. Was he an outsider in Encino Man?
No, what I'm saying, but like he also wasn't the main character in Encino Man.
Okay, is he the main character in this?
Yes.
Or is Becca the main character?
Becca probably should be the main character, but he is definitely the main character. The bulk of the movie is focused on him.
True. Okay, he's an outsider.
I say he's kind of an outsider in Encino Man too, though, right? Like he is a
stony, crusty dude.
Yes, he's fully crusty.
Okay. Do I want to add anything? I can't think of anything, actually.
That's fine.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's really all I came up. I mean, like, there are things that I would want to add, but I know they're definitely not essentials. Like riding a pig or wearing a cowboy hat. Those are not going to be important later, so I will choose not to advocate for adding them.
Yeah, I don't think this belongs in the essentials, but I do want to go back to the fact that we saw Pauly Shore's butt. Because it was unexpected, but I think it really fits into his personality, like the way that he did it. Because at the time, Becca is talking to Tracy. This is how I think like Tracy starts to become introduced. We see her earlier, but this is like her first like speaking lines and stuff. And introduces Krull to Tracy, and he's like wearing this the chaps, and then he just confidently turns around and shows Tracy his ass. And it's such a power move.
It is a power move, but I feel like that is just that's just something that comes out of the other elements of his personality that are already cataloged in the essentials.
I know. I just want to talk about it. I don't think it's anything like additional that we need to add, but I just wanted to say like I respect it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, look, I'm fully open to if we watch these other movies and we think, God, man, this would have been so much better if we had seen his butt. Like, and then if we got to put it on the list at that point, then I say we put it on the list. But I think we should just wait and see.
Yeah, sure. I don't think it's gonna happen. Okay, that sounds all good. So I think we're all set with the essentials, unless you have anything else. Yeah,
I don't think we need to do anything else. We're developing a nice list here.
We sure are. Now that we've done that, I think before we get to Quote Corner, which I'm sure we got a lot to cover there, I want to talk about something that's important to Pauly Shore, and I want to maybe divide a section to it. I don't know. But I think we need to talk about the word nugs again. And I think we have to talk about how the word nugs evolves.
We got to do a nug watch?
I think we got to do nug watch.
Okay. So, our nug theory, or at least the one I presented in the previous episode, was that they were using it as a catch-all term so that when they did use it to mean weed, it wouldn't be a clear one-to-one translation, which would then throw censors or angry parents or whatever off the track. Here, I don't know what it's going on with the word nugs in this movie. It means like women. I think it means boobs at one point.
He doesn't use it to mean balls anymore.
No, they don't do that one. No.
So it's like changed, because originally in Encino Man, right, it was like balls, boobs, and definitely like weed for sure.
It was balls, boobs, and a nebulous thing that he liked that we must assume is weed.
Now it's fine women, also boobs.
I'm wondering if maybe the idea here is that nugs is just anything that he likes.
I guess, but it does. I don't know. It's this nebulous word that I think we need to figure out how to define by the end of this podcast, or we're going to go insane.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on the way that Nugs develops over the course of this season.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to Nug Watch in later episodes for sure. So, for right now, do you want to hit up Quote Corner?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to hit you with some quotes. When Crawl first meets Theo, and Theo gives him a very hard handshake and shoves him on the ground, he tells Theo, ease up on the steroids. Juice will make the jewels shrivel up like sun-dried tomatoes.
Yeah, that's some juice you don't want to wheeze.
No, don't wheeze that juice. And then this he refers to his balls as jewels. So I don't know why he didn't say nugs here. But sure. But let's talk about nugs again. There's a weird plot point in this movie where Crawl is creeping on Becca's mom and convinces her that she needs to get a new makeover.
Yes.
But does so by telling her that she's hot and that she gives him a semi and begs her to let him give her a makeover. And he describes this by saying, where I come from, nugs stay active until they're senile.
Yes. He does say that. So there's further evidence about that taxonomical evolution of nugs.
And this transitions into another plot point where she gets all weaselized into this like fancy dress outfit, meets the dad at the barn for the square dancing, and her dad gets all flustered. He says to Becca, check out the wood that I gave for him.
Yes, he's very concerned with whether or not her dad has a boner and whether or not he fucks.
Yeah, and he does fuck. And later in the morning, Becca says, sounds like you and Walter were getting busy.
Yeah.
Referring to her dad as Walter. Like getting all hyped about her parents' boning. This movie's fucking dumb.
This movie is very dumb.
I have one more quote. The resolution to this movie is they find out that Crawl and Tracy didn't have an affair. Which upsets Becca at first because she was starting to get into Crawl, I guess. And that's never resolved, whether or not they have a relationship. But when it's found out that Crawl didn't sleep with Tracy, it's like, oh, so you guys didn't bone. We didn't bone. No, they didn't bone. And that goes on for a good couple minutes of people saying they didn't bone. So that's good. Just a dinner table of people talking about how they didn't bone.
It's important. I mean, it's important. They need to know that. It's the whole resolution of the movie.
Yeah, so that is all the quotes I have. You don't have any quotes?
No, I don't have any quotes. I'm sorry.
No, you failed me. It's fine.
Does that bring us to the end of this podcast?
More or less. I was thinking about doing a side character shout-out, but I don't really have much to say that we've already said. There is one thing I wanted to say about Zach, but I don't feel like it warrants a side character shout-out. So I'm just going to say it, and then we can move on, and hopefully other movies will give me an opportunity to really nominate some Academy Award winners for side character shout-out.
Okay.
But the only thing I would add about the little creepazoid Zach is the shirt that he wears when he visits college with Becca to like help get her moved in.
Yeah.
He's a little kid. Like he has to be like, I don't know, 12 maybe 14 if I'm being generous. And he's wearing this like bland like yellow shirt with just clear lettering that says seduce me, and then in smaller lettering underneath it, please.
Yeah, he is a weird little creep, and that is the shirt that a weird little creep would wear.
Yeah, but also, like, why would anyone let him wear that shirt?
I don't know.
Like, that is the parents, or Becca just immediately look at him and be like, no, stop, don't. But no, it happens, and it is very perplexing. Maybe that should have gone the bubble bath.
Yeah,
but, you know.
Well, I don't know. We're here now.
Yeah. Okay, I don't really have anything else to add. This movie, again, it's not, you know, it's just a movie. There's nothing special about it.
We're fine. People understand that the movie's just kind of okay.
Okay. Where are we going from here, Nate?
I'm gonna be real with you. I already don't remember.
Well, I'll tell you, because you have cursed me. You have cursed me to watch terrible movies about people being in the army now.
I remember why I don't remember, which is because I tried to repress it.
First Ernest, and now Pauly Shore. They have to be in the army now, and that's the movie we're watching. in the Army now. And that movie will not blow us away. I can tell you right now, that movie will kill us. And if we're still alive, after rewatching that movie for a second time, it should be an interesting podcast, I guess.
Yeah. At least we won't have to say that movie's okay, because it's not. Nothing is okay after In the Army now.
Nothing will ever be okay. And with that being said, nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Buddy?
Bottom line is, man, just love one another, peace and stuff, alright? Word to the wind, ace up, O's, I'm out of here. Ow.